At sunset, still undaunted, she placed a candle before the memorial tablets of her husband's ancestors. She sat down, seemingly lost in prayer, as immobile as a statue. Since everyone was still out searching, there was no evening meal at the house, and when night fell and there was still no news, Osugi finally moved. As if in a trance, she walked slowly out of the house to the front gate. There she stood and waited, hidden in the darkness. A watery moon shone through the oak tree branches, and the mountains looming before and behind the house were veiled in a white mist. The sweetish scent of pear blossoms floated in the air. Time too floated by unnoticed. Then a figure could be discerned approaching, making its way along the outer edge of the pear orchard. Recognizing the silhouette as Otsu's, Osugi called out and the girl ran forward, her wet sandals clomping heavily on the earth. "Otsu, they told me you saw Takizo. Is that true?" "Yes, I'm sure I saw him. I spotted him in the crowd outside the temple." "You didn't see Matahachi?" "No. I rushed out to ask Takizo about him, but when I called out, Takizo jumped like a scared rabbit. I caught his eyes for a second, and then he was gone. He's always been strange, but I can't imagine why he ran away like that." "Ran away?" asked Osugi with a puzzled air. She began to muse, and the longer she did so, the more a terrible suspicion took shape in her mind. It was becoming clear to her that the Shiman boy, that ruffian Takizo she so hated for luring her precious Matahachi off to war, was once more up to no good. At length she said ominously, "That wrench probably left poor Matahachi to die somewhere, then sneak back home safe and sound. Coward, that's what he is." Osugi began to shake in fury, and her voice rose to a shriek. "He can't hide from me." Otsu remained composed. "Oh, I don't think he'd do anything like that. Even if he did have to leave Matahachi behind, surely he'd bring us word or at least some keepsake from him." Otsu sounded shocked by the old woman's hasty accusation. Osugi, however, was by now convinced of Takizo's perfidy. She shook her head decisively and went on. "Oh no, he wouldn't. Not that young demon. He hasn't got that much heart. Matahachi should never have taken up with him." "Granny," Otsu said soothingly. "What?" snapped Osugi. "Not soothed in the least. I think that if we go over to Ojin's house, we just might find Takizo there." The woman relaxed a bit. "You might be right. She is his sister, and there really isn't anyone else in the village who'd take him in." "Then let's go and see. Just the two of us." Osugi balked. "I don't see why I should do that. She knew her brother had dragged my son off to war, but she never once came to apologize or to pay her respects. And now that he's back, she hasn't even come to tell me. I don't see why I should go to her. It's demeaning. I'll wait for her." Osugi is Matahachi's mother, and she's quite old. She's 60-something, and Matahachi's 16, making her, she's convinced that Musashi has taken her son beyond his will to battle and to die. So she hates him. She basically hates Musashi with the utmost hatred. This Osugi, this 60-year-old lady, becomes Musashi's true enemy. As old as she is, she's pretty persistent. Anyway, so yeah, they go to visit Ojin, and now she basically hates anything that has to do with Musashi, so she heads over there. She's pretty mad, and she blames Ojin. Osugi went straight to the point. Her false smile disappeared as she glared at the young woman before her. "I have been told that the young demon of this house has crawled back home. Please fetch him." Although Osugi's tongue was notorious for its sharpness, this undisguised maliciousness came as something of a shock to the gentle Ojin. "Whom do you mean by that, young demon?" asked Ojin. With palpable restraint, chameleon-like Osugi changed her tactic. "A slip of the tongue, I assure you," she said with a laugh. "That's what the people in the village call him. I suppose I picked it up from them. The young demon is Takizo. He's hiding here, isn't he?" "Why no," replied Ojin, with genuine astonishment. Embarrassed to hear her brother referred to in this way, she bit her lip. They basically sabotage Ojin, and unknown to her, Musashi, Takizo is there, but he doesn't tell anybody he's there. he gets caught by the samurai. They more or less knew that he would go to her house, so he ends up fighting them outside the house, and they hear it. The three ladies hear it, and that kind of pisses off Osugi even more, thinking that Ojin had hidden him within the house. But Musashi gets away. He ends up killing one of the samurai. Osugi is bent on getting some kind of revenge, so much so that she sets up the samurai to take Ojin prisoner as bait to get Musashi. Are you a member of the Shimen household? Certainly not, Osugi snapped, waving her hand in protest. I am the head of the samurai house across the river. Does that mean you are the mother of Young Matahachi, who went with Shimen Takezo to the battle of the Sekigahara? Well, yes, but my son didn't go because he wanted to. He was tricked into going by that young demon. Demon? That Takezo. I gather this Takezo is not well thought of in the village. Well thought of? That's a laugh. You never saw such a hoodlum. You couldn't imagine the trouble we've had at my house since my son took up with him. Your son seems to have died at the Sekigahara. I'm Matahachi's dead? Well, actually, I'm not sure, but perhaps it'll be some comfort to you in your grief to know that I'll do everything possible to help you take revenge. Moving along here. I know Takezo can be as strong and as cunning as any wild beast, sir, she said coyly. But I shouldn't think that samurai of your caliber would have any trouble capturing him. Well, frankly, that's what I thought at first. But there aren't many of us, and he just killed one of my men. Let an old woman give you a few words of advice. Leaning over, she whispered something in his ear. Her words seemed to please him immensely. He nodded his approval and enthusiastically claimed, "Good idea. Splendid." Yeah, so the old lady sets up Ojin, so the samurai head back into Ojin's house. They basically take her prisoner and they take her hostile. And here we go. The man was no match for Takezo and was easily overtaken. It turned out to be one of the villagers who came to the mountains to make charcoal, and Takezo knew him by sight. Grabbing his collar, he dragged him back to a small clearing. Why are you running away? Don't you know me? I'm one of you, Shimen Takezo of Miyamoto. I'm not going to eat you alive. You know, it's very rude to run away from people without saying hello. Yes, sir. Sit down. Takezo released his grip on the man's arm, but the pitiful creature started to flee, forcing Takezo to kick his behind and make as if to strike him with his wooden sword. The man cringed on the ground like a simpering dog, his hands over his head. Don't kill me, he screamed pathetically. Just answer my questions, all right? I'll tell you anything. Just don't kill me. I have a wife and a family. Nobody's going to kill you. I suppose the hills are crawling with soldiers, aren't they? Yes. Are they keeping close watch on the Shippoji? Yes. Are the men from the village hunting me again today? Silence. Are you one of them? The man jumped to his feet, shaking his head like a deaf mute. No. That's enough, shouted Takezo, taking a firm grip on the man's neck. He asked, what about my sister? What sister? My sister Ojin, of the House of Shimen. Don't play dumb. You promised to answer my questions. I don't really blame the villagers for trying to capture me because the samurai are forcing them to do it. But I'm sure you'd never do anything to hurt her, or would you? Yeah, so he ends up telling them that, they got her and they took her to a castle. She's being held prisoner. So in the meantime, he hasn't eaten, so he catches a bird and eats it. So he makes his way over to the temple where Otsu is. But here we go. Moving along here. Probably just a cat, answered Otsu, who came out carrying a dinner tray and started crossing the passageway directly over Takezo's head. So Takezo's hidden underneath the deck boards of the temple. He tried to call to her, but was still too nauseated to make an intelligible sound. This, as it happened, was a stroke of luck because just then, a male voice just behind Otsu inquired, which way is the bath? The man was wearing a kimono borrowed from the temple, tied with a narrow sash from which dangled a small washcloth. Takezo recognized him as one of the samurai from the Himeji. Evidently, he was of high rank high enough to lodge at the temple and pass his evenings eating and drinking his fill, while his subordinates and the villagers had to scour mountainsides day and night searching for the fugitive. "The bath?" said Otsu. "Come, I'll show you." She set her tray down and began leading him along the passageway. Suddenly, the samurai rushed forward and hugged her from behind. "How about joining me in the bath?" he suggested lecherously. "Stop that. Let go of me," cried Otsu. But the man, turning her around, held her face in both hands and brushed his lips against her cheek. "What's wrong?" cajoled. "Don't you like men? Stop it. You shouldn't do that," protested the helpless Otsu. The soldier then clapped his hands over her mouth. Takazo, oblivious of the danger, leapt up onto the passageway like a cat and thrust his fist at the man's head from behind. The blow was a hard one. Momentarily defenseless, the samurai fell backwards, still clinging to Otsu. As she tried to break away from his hold, she let out a shriek. Fallen man began shouting, "It's him! It's Takazo! He's here! Come and take him!" Takazo ends up running, and he gets away for the moment, and he's hiding once again, but I think he's hiding over by Osugi's house. So here we go. "Who's there?" came the shrill reply. Osugi ambled out of the back room, lit from below by a paper lantern in her hand, her gnarled face pale at the sign of her visitor. "You," she cried. "I have something important to tell you," Takazo said hurriedly. "Matahachi isn't dead. He's still very much alive and healthy. He's staying with a woman in another province. That's all I can tell you, because that's all I know. Will you please break the news to Otsu for me?" Couldn't do it myself. Immensely relieved to have unburdened himself of the message, he started to leave, but the old woman called him back. "Where do you plan to go from here?" "I have to break into the stockade at the Hinugara and rescue Ojin," he replied sadly. "After that, I'll go away somewhere. I just want to tell you and your family, as well as Otsu, that I didn't let Matahachi die. Other than that, I have no reason to be here." "I see." Osugi shifted the lantern from one hand to the other, playing for time. Then she beckoned to him. "I bet you're hungry, aren't you?" "I haven't had a decent meal for days." "You poor boy. Wait, I'm in the midst of cooking right now, and I can give you a nice warm dinner in no time as a going away present. And wouldn't you like to take a bath while I'm getting it ready?" Yeah, so even after Takazo does the right thing and tells her, he risks his life to go tell her about Matahachi, even then, this old lady's still peeved. She's mad. She's not just mad, she's vengeful. So she offers him some food and a bath, but it's a setup. She's setting him up. She wants him dead. So here we go, moving along. Before long, the daughter-in-law reappeared at the gate, all out of breath. She was followed by a band of samurai in vigilance. Osugi came out of the house and addressed them in a whisper. "Ah, you got him to take a bath. Very clever," said one of the men, admiringly. "Yes, that's fine. We've got him for sure this time." Splitting into two groups, the men crouched and moved cautiously, like so many toads, towards the fire blazing brightly under the bath. Something indefinable pricked Takazo's instincts, and he peeped out through the crack in the door. His hair stood on end. "I've been trapped," he screamed. He was stark naked. The bathhouse was tiny, and there was no time to think. Beyond the door, he'd spotted what seemed like hordes of men armed with staffs, lances, and truncheons. Still, he wasn't really afraid. Any fear he might have had was blotted out by his anger towards Osugi. "All right, you bastards, watch this," he growled. So he gets away. I think he takes out a few more samurai, all while he's naked. So there's another woman right there, and again, her name starts with an O. This is gonna be a repeating thing as we move along here, these women and how they treat these men, and you'll see how Matahachi was formed and the way in which he was formed because of his mother, and Otsu inevitably follows along with Musashi. Some of these chapters get deep into the symbology. Some of them carry on from other chapters. This is one of them. So this chapter is called The Dowager's Wrath. It's basically another lady. It's It's the mother of Matahachi, and she becomes a nemesis to Musashi. So here we go.